Hey everyone, Margarita here. This is part 2 of the Brownstown, Michigan Police Department and Detective Mike Ramsey promising false fraud charges on me without investigation. I knew eventually I was going to have to do a part 2. Due to how long the first video was to get all that information in there, there was little bits of information I had missed, which will make everything make a little bit more sense. What I want to start with is that prior to my mother coming to their police department in June of 2024 and reporting all of this false fraud about me stealing money, which wasn't actually stolen money, the power of attorneys I had were being used properly to service the vehicle that my parents owned with their money and to hire my dad an attorney. That stuff was omitted from the Brownstown Police Department's reports and all the records regarding the case they were trying to build on me. That stuff was all omitted. And I directly told Detective Ramsey this over the phone in August of 2024. I reached out to him directly. Once I figured out he had no intention of reaching out to me, I had been aware that I had numerous people reach out to me and tell me that there was a case being built behind my back. So I reached out and told him those things, and in all of those reports, none of this information was actually in there. He still continued to portray as if I actually stole this money, when I can prove to you right here that these are the 3 money orders that came from my dad's account, and then this is the one that came from mine. That's why it looks different. This one actually has the attorney's name on it, John O. Knappman. So he's the attorney who stole the money, and no point in any of these reports does it say that. And then I also have the receipt, not handy, but I do have the receipt where I gave the car repair shop the deposit to fix the truck, which is still not fixed, and the police still has the deposit. So he does not mention that at all to help sway the case his way. And then also on 4/23 of 24, so this is a day after I had gotten the power of attorney document signed and began to assess everything as a whole regarding my dad's affairs financially and just everything as a whole. I began assessing it immediately. And within that day, I had figured out my mother had committed numerous crimes. And I was already aware that she had cashed out the 401k. This is about 10, 12 days after they had the fight about the amount of money that was in it, that she had cashed it out, which was about 10 days after he went unconscious and had to be resuscitated due to her poisoning his food that afternoon that I watched her leave with to go to the hospital to visit him. So I was already aware that that happened because I had been doing my parents' taxes since 2009. Whether she knows that or not, I don't know, but I had been. And I did her taxes that year, and she's the one who told me she had cashed out his 401k. So when my dad came back to and was able to talk again, and he had initially told me the last time I had talked to him before he went unconscious and unresponsive, he's the one who told me they had the fight about it. So when he came to eventually, I brought it up with him and told him what she did because there's no way he could have known because of the state that he was in. And then, so after I figured all of this out, I then went to the Brownstown Police Department on 4/3/24, and I reported that she had done that with the 401k behind his back, and they had the fight about it. And then I'd also discovered that she had also gotten a quitclaim deed signed and transferred the house into her name and then moved it into trust for herself, and that I was able to locate the notary/attorney who did this for her. And that I spoke with the lady briefly, but you could tell based on what she was saying on the phone with me that she believed the delusions she was told about me to have had this mental disorder, this drug problem or whatever. She didn't take what I was telling her seriously because I told her my dad didn't authorize any of this. This was all done behind his back. What my mother is doing is illegal. And she continued to participate. Her name is Jamie Fergus of Shea Law. So I reported all of this to the Brownstown Police Department about 6 weeks prior to my mother coming in there and launching this whole false fraud investigation on me. And not one person took the time to look into what I was reporting, the fact that I had reported everything first, the fact that I can prove my mother's the one who committed fraud, and there's all different avenues of evidence. Now, one person looked at any of this. Detective Ramsey didn't look at any of this. Neither did any other cop in the Brownstown Police Department. Also in this report, I also restated to them that there was an attempted murder on my life on Labor Day weekend of 2021 that my mother had done on me, and she was caught in the act, and that's when we left. And that I had a witness, and I had brought my witness there at one point, And we sat for over an hour, and everybody refused to talk to us. And there was other numerous crimes going on at the same time, separate from this, that my mother was creating all these problems in the background, committing other crimes. And I was there on all of these matters. And they did not talk to my witness or look into any of this, or the second witness, which is Charmaine, because she was, my mother was brought in front of her and confronted about what she had done. And the answer she gave, Charmaine, told us that it was an attempted murder. So that was also reported that day. It says right here, I'm reporting it again because it seems nobody took me seriously. Well, they still didn't take me seriously. And all the other reports I made on this have been completely omitted from the Brownstown Police Department system altogether. There is no other proof of it ever being reported. And still nobody did anything about it after I reported it that day. Now, the other problem with all of this is that in Romulus, because the notary had spoken to the Romulus police and the Brownstown police. So I read yesterday in the report about them speaking with the notary. So I don't know if the notary actually said this to the Brownstown police or if she maybe only said it to Romulus. It does not matter. It could have easily been found within the Romulus records that the Brownstown Police Department was pressing my mother to get or to report. But it states in this Romulus report here that I notified the notary that my mother had attempted to murder my dad, that he was unresponsive. They had a fight about it. 10 days later, she moved the 401k into trust for herself. And she then had a conversation with my dad about it in front of me the day we had the documents signed. And she spoke with my dad for about an hour. So she had the ability to see that he was with it, you know, from day to day. He's with it from day to day at that time. I don't know about now because I've been banned from him, but on that day he was, and he had been just day to day prior for some time. And I watched them talk about it. She even confirmed it with him. She said, "Did you give your wife permission to cash out your 401k?" And he said no. And then he said that that's why we're signing these documents, so she doesn't take anything further. And they talked about it together. And it is stated in the Romulus report that the notary had stated that to my dad, and my dad confirmed it. So that is not stated in the Brownstown report. So I don't know if that was also omitted, so that way they could sway the report to suit their needs to make it look like I'm this mental disorder, drug addict, fraud who needs to steal money. I mean, part of the problem with all this is there's many people who can verify this, but in one of the industries that I've been in for like 17 years, that's how much I make in one night. So the amount I'm being accused of stealing, I make that in one night, not even working 8 hours. I don't even work 8-hour shifts. I work 5 to 6-hour shifts, 7 tops, never more than that. I make what I've been accused of stealing in one night. So it doesn't make any sense. There's many people who can verify this. But hey, no actual investigation was ever done. So why would they be verifying any of this? Now, with the Romulus reports, I did release those videos a few months ago as well. Those are already up on the channel, Brownstown as well. Watch all of those. Watch the 401k fight between my parents. Watch the RICO probate court plays out illegally. Because then my mother took these doctored up Brownstown reports, altered to suit their needs, and down to probate court to get custody of my dad fraudulently. And because she's telling everybody I'm this mental disorder drug addict, I'm known to be this liar and this thief, they all believed her. So they thought they could continue on with the probate session fraudulently without following proper court procedure, without following the judge's orders. And I managed to, I knew what they were doing, so I'm able to prove what they did. And I don't know if they realize that, but I am able to prove it. So they operated as if the person she described that I am, it was actually real, not realizing I'm actually extremely intelligent and I'm the opposite of the person that she described to them. So all of these people participated in letting probate court play out illegally and then putting my dad's life in danger. There is a bigger agenda here. The agenda is to collect the assets of my dad and also to collect the assets of me. Because what my mother doesn't know is due to all of the brain injuries. After the first one, I had a lot of memories come back that I didn't even know I was missing. And all of this happened due to her 2013 escapade and the fallout of all that, why I was ever even in the building that caused all of this to happen to me. Because I'd been 100% self-employed for 4 or 5 years at this point and had been self-employed even longer. And now it's been 13 years. So What she didn't know is that I'm aware I was left a large sum of money when I was a small child, and that she's gained access to it fraudulently by portraying me to have this mental disorder, this drug problem, being this hot mess and so unstable, and she raised my kids, and that all of these people have been taking my resources and the funds that were left for me all on fraud, because they've all committed fraud. They're all taking a piece of the pie for themselves. She had to share it with them for them to help concoct all these little cases along the way, these little incidences along the way, in order to gain access to it, because this was done through a private attorney's office, not through a court system. She had to do that to prove to them that she needs this money for herself, and I'm just this hot mess who dumped her kids off and ran off. So she doesn't know that I'm aware of that, but that is what's going on at the root, and I do fully intend on exposing all of that situation. Stay tuned with me, follow along, like, share, subscribe to the channel. I am going to be exposing every individual, every person along the way, all these agencies. There are so many more to go. I am literally just getting started. But that's the bottom line and their agenda and what they're doing. I don't know how many other people they're doing this with, but they've definitely targeted me somewhere around 20 years ago or so, and they've definitely targeted my dad, which is why she's got different police officers and different attorneys helping her carry all of this out. So there is, I would say, at least 5 to 10 direct individuals involved in all of that long term, and there's even more individuals involved along the way. There's even more. There's about 20 individuals who need charges put on them immediately. I have enough to prove at least some charges on some of these people, and there is at least 10 large agencies who need to be investigated immediately. And what I need is people to place phone calls to whoever you know at the top of the state, the FBI, emails. I don't care if you don't understand my whole story, but you do know this about me, or you do know that is true, or just one little piece. Direct them to my YouTube channel, or direct them, I believe my email address is in there. Direct them to my email, direct them to my channel, direct them to converse with me, because if I sit down with somebody, I can bust the entire thing open. I have the majority of it put together, and what I don't physically have as far as evidence goes, I know where to find it. It's just, the problem is, this situation is so large and so long-term and so corrupt and so organized and orchestrated with all these high-level officials that it's really hard to explain to somebody, because people don't want to believe that something like this to this degree is really going on, but I can actually prove it. So that is what I need from the viewers right now. Regardless of how well you know me, if you do know that some of this is going on, you do know some of these are facts, please reach out to somebody for me, please. Now, the other thing I want to talk about is how my mother got her fraudulent documents signed. She got some of her fraudulent documents signed so the workers' comp was paying for my parents' home to be remodeled for my dad to come home to eventually. So in order to do that, they had to place a lien on the home for X amount of years. Every situation's a little different, so I don't know the specifics, but I did use their contractors for some of the work on my house. So this is how I know this. I've spoken to some of them directly because I needed help with my situation because it was so extensive. I actually happened to personally run into them on accident, and they fell on my lap right when I needed them. So they did help me. They're really good people, and he was the one who explained this to me on how all of this worked. But what happened is, because of workers' comp paying for everything, they did have to place a lien on the house for X amount of time, which means they would need to have notarized documents signed regarding that work and future, either a future sale or certain stipulations regarding their home. So there would have needed to be a notarized document before that work began. Now on 10/26/23, I believe is when that document was signed, because that's around the time the work started on their house. And that would have been how my mother slipped in these documents, these additional documents with the quitclaim deed and the power of attorneys, that she got my dad to sign without his knowledge. She slipped him in with the work being done on the house documents is what happened. Now they also needed 2 witnesses and a notary. So the lady who's in charge of the workers' comp care for my dad's situation, mind you, I had an hour-long conversation with her at the very beginning of his injury, and then my mother fully manipulated her onto her team immediately upon returning from California about a week later. because she had no intention of returning initially. But this lady's been in control of all the care, and she's got, I don't know how many degrees, probably at least 8 or 9 degrees. And she's got all these fancy letters after her last name because she's spent all this time in college. She's done all these different professions along the way. And her name is Terry North, and she works for North Star Care Management. So because she would have to be present to get these documents signed to get the remodel done on their house, I do believe she's one of the witnesses. And then second to that, my dad's brother was in town for a couple weeks. He was in town during this time, and he was there to help his two brothers get their affairs in order. So I didn't personally run into him, but I am aware he was there at that time frame. I do believe he is the second witness on her fraudulent documents, because he also went to school for a very long time, and who knows how many degrees this guy has. I don't really know. We don't have contact, and the only thing he knows about me are the delusions he's been told over the course of my life. I don't have contact with these people. I cross paths very rarely with these people briefly. But those are the two witnesses on these false documents. My mother had my dad sign. That's why he's unaware he signed them. So if you viewed part 1 of this video, you see where I showed his state of being, how this is how he doesn't remember signing anything. He wasn't even aware because he was in no shape to sign these documents. And then I have the Romulus Police Department report several days prior stating he's not well enough to sign these documents. So those were the people who helped sign these documents fraudulently when my dad was in no shape to do this. Now, if they had just signed for the work on the house to be done, that would have been a little more acceptable. But the extent that was gone to snatch the house out from under my dad, steal his 401k, move it into trust for herself, move the house into trust, and then get a power of attorney, medical and financial, all these additional documents, that's extremely excessive. That's fraud. She used the documents fraudulently. I can prove every step of the way. At no time did she have any intention of assessing any of his finances or any of his affairs as a whole. She intended on keeping everything for herself. So it was that day that I believe those documents were signed, and it was, I do believe we can get a copy of when the documents were signed to do the work on the house. It's probably dated the same day. I do believe it is the same day. If not, it's the same week. I do know that. But I do believe it's the same day, and that's how they would have easily slipped it in. And my dad just made probably not his actual signature. It's probably off, kind of like the one I have. It's not his real signature. But then with the notary, it doesn't have to look like his real signature. But with the two witnesses she used, because they're such credible people, they're all narcissists, all three of them. My Uncle Vince and Terry from North Star Care Management and my mother are the most extreme narcissists out there. So the three of them, birds of a feather, flocked together. The three of them got together and orchestrated this whole little event so my mother could take all of these assets. But long term, here my mother is taking all of these assets as a whole, using all these individuals. Each person's got their hand in the pot, taking a little bit, thinking they're going to trip me up and do this and do that. She's paid so many people to insert themselves into my life to gather information on me and to do things to try to get me to get myself locked up. And all of these people operate as if the false person she said I am is actually real. So they come at me operating as if that's real. And then they tell on themselves all along the way. This has been going on for some time. So the goal is to either have me locked up in prison long term, deemed mentally incompetent on paper, or deceased, which is why all of these events have been occurring all along the way. Why there's so many escapades and crimes and fallout and all this chaos in my life to make me look crazy and unstable. Well, the reality is I'm extremely stable. That's how I am still where I am today, being 100% self-made, self-built, generating 100% of my own income for over 13 years, while half of that time I stayed extremely injured in a fight for my life and still managed to keep everything running. The problem with these other individuals is that they misconstrue the level I'm on in life. They believe the delusions they were told about me. They peg me to be dumb or not very smart when I'm actually extremely intelligent. And then they way underestimate who I am as a person or my level of skill. So then they eventually tell on themselves, not realizing I'm actually 20 steps ahead. So all of this can be proven. I have so much more evidence to release along the way. Wait till I get to the Tony Baloney situation. That is going to be several videos deep. I will get there. Now, the other thing I want to talk about is the incident that was staged. So after the false fraud investigation began against me last year. It began in June of 2024. This incident happened 7/24 of 24. Now, what happened was, because like I said in part 1 of this video, here I was doing all of this work on my house, over 100 grand in damage, trying to get everything back in order from all the damage that the lady caused, that I can't even get police help or make a report to take this to court, to get the rest of the funds compensated back from her, from the difference in what the insurance gave me and the difference that I'm actually owed for the damage. And the fact that this is criminally negligent. There was numerous problems here. And due to my deranged mother and calling my local police department in Flat Rock, I was not able to report this or get proper paperwork to take this to court. So during that time, I had numerous companies working for me, numerous individuals working for me. The lady who worked for me a few years ago came back and worked for me for a little while. And I had a couple contractors, different sets of contractors. But this particular day, I had worked with the one guy, and he had numerous people working for him. I had brought him in for a few weeks to do numerous different jobs, and he was coming from over an hour away. And what happened was, around 12:30 p.m. that day, I placed a phone call to my dad, and he did pick up the phone, but at this time he was already blind. He still needed help using the phone because his arms did not work. My mother was there with him. She helped him use the phone, just did not say anything. We had this whole phone conversation. I'm telling him I need to use 2 specific tools that he has. I know exactly where they're at. We don't even need to go into the house. We just need to get into the garage. I know where they are. I know what I'm looking for. And he said, okay. Not only that, but he had already in print with a notary signed that I could have all of his tools, any tools I wanted, because he's never going to use them again. My mother doesn't know how to use them. And he had also stated this many times when he's fully with it in the beginning of his injury as well. So here we were going to come get these couple tools to get the work done on my house. We were finishing a couple specific jobs, and we show up there to get these tools that we were told we could come get. And at 1:05 p.m., so about 35 minutes from the time we had this phone call, Detective Mike Ramsey then sent Officer Max, badge number 5, to sit out front of my parents' house, stating there's going to be a trespassing incident because I'm just this broke loser, mental disorder, drug addict who needs to steal tools. And so he sent his little minion cop to sit out front. They staged an entire false police incident because what happened was my mother went into the hallway at the care facility away from my dad, called her little buddy, Detective Ramsey, to sit out front, to send somebody to sit out front. And it was done on his personal line because there's no record of this within the Brownstown Police Department. So they staged the entire incident to look like a trespassing incident when my vehicle remained in the street the entire time. My 2 contractors did pull in the driveway, and I had already warned them and was explaining to them what was going on in the background, and they were having a hard time believing how excessive the situation was. But then they started to see, because of what happened that day, that I'm drop dead serious about everything I've said. So here the police show up. Everybody involved was not white, so there's another issue there. They did clip some of the videos along the way to kind of like hide some of what was going on. I do have the body cam footage that is up on the Brownstown Police video number 3 that I've already released. You can view the whole thing there. But they did that to help add to their false documentation and this whole fake case file they're concocting to make it look like I'm just this drug addict who needs to steal tools. When at no time did I ever have any time to waste, neither did any of the people working for me. All of these people were being paid by the hour by me. I own business. I run business. I don't have time to waste. I'm chronically sick, permanently injured, trying to take care of numerous disasters at once, and all of the fallout of the decades of crimes and ongoing fallout that my mother has created, this is all a part of that. So why would I be going there to get tools that aren't guaranteed for us to use when we were told we could have them? That doesn't make any sense. Why we would ever even waste the time to go there when I'm paying everybody by the hour to stage a whole false little escapade, take an hour out of our time, when in the end we still had to go to Home Depot and purchase the same exact tools for $600 and some, which I do have the receipt for, because this is all an insurance situation. I have the receipts for all of it. So at no time would I have ever been wasting the time to go there at all to grab anything. If that's what was going to happen, if we weren't going to get the tools, we would have never came there, and none of us would have ever wasted our time, and I would have never wasted the money paying people by the hour to go do this. So the proof is in the pudding of what all happened there, and the fact that my mother and Detective Mike Ramsey staged the entire incident to occur so they could add it to their false case file, so they could get charges pinned on me. See, look, here's more evidence. This is the type of person she is. This is what she did. Well, unfortunately, the type of person I am can be proven. You guys are such idiots. I know some of you are watching my videos, and I promise you, all of you are going to prison in the end, because I have so much proof it's not even funny. I have way more than you even think. So that's what happened with that incident. That was all done behind my dad's back. It was they used the little minion cop to carry out the crime. My mother did it away from my dad, knowing we were on our way, knowing he just told us we could come there, which makes no sense, because if she really just didn't want us to have the tools, she could have just chimed in on the phone call at any time and said, oh, no, you can't have the tools. If she would have just did that, none of us would have ever even came there. We would have went straight to Home Depot, and I would have saved myself an hour worth of pay to all of these individuals, 2 of them being paid a high dollar amount per hour, 1 of them being paid more of an average wage, but still, it's the concept of what actually happened here. They did this to add it to their false report. So there's numerous sets of evidence that what was sent over to the prosecutor to get charges put on me was all altered and doctored, and things were omitted to suit their needs, to make sure that it looked like I'm the one over here committing fraud, and that I need to steal, and that I'm just this broke mental disorder loser. Not a businesswoman who has numerous things running 2 to 4 times more on my plate than I can handle, and dealing with the fallout of all these decades of ongoing crimes, while I'm chronically sick with 5 brain injuries, struggling to get through each day, but still managing to keep things running. That is extremely frustrating and ignorant. So, all of you idiots, somebody needs to forward this to Detective Mike Ramsey so you can watch my videos. Watch my videos. Do I look like a mental disorder drug addict? Watch video number 1. Does my lifestyle look like I'm a mental disorder drug addict? Whoever knows him personally needs to forward this shit to him. Because I promise you, in the end, you will be in prison, buddy. You and everybody you're connected to. Your entire department needs a whole investigation done. Half of those officers need to be fired. Now, I will be back with more. I will be back with, I'm not sure which set of documents next. I will probably throw a few extra videos in between, but I am having to do this step by step. Stack of documents by stack of documents, because some of these I have to pay for. It takes time to receive them, and there's so many agencies they have to be ordered from that each one has its own set of time frames, so there's steps along the way. That's why it's taking so long for me to release everything. But I will be back with more. Thanks. Bye.